Okay, the time has come. This is it. The last review in the Oscar race. We've done Les Mis. We've done Life of Pi. We've done Lincoln. We've done Silver Linings Playbook. And then we did, crap, what else have we done? We've done Beast of the Southern Wild. And we've done Zero Dark 30. And now it's time, not in that order by the way. If you're looking for some other reviews, they're in totally different order than that. Now, Argo. This was the first of them I saw, and the only one I saw previous to the nomination announcements. So yes, Argo. Where do I begin? If you've seen any of my other videos, you know this is my favorite film of 2012. It's the best film of 2012, and it's tomorrow, on Oscar night, going to be the winner of Best Picture. I can almost guarantee it. If something totally wild happens, you'll see my video on that too. But yes, this is definitely a film that I recommend very highly. It just came out on Blu-ray. I've seen it twice since then. I saw it twice in the theater. Speaking of which, I kind of saw this film on a whim. That night, it was the opening night. I looked at my local paper. I say, what's playing? I see, oh, Argo. I said, okay, what's that about? As I'd been watching the reviews, and the reviews had started at 100%, and they were still about mid-90s by that point on the tomato meter. Rotten Tomatoes, I love. That's almost my my guide for which movie to see in theaters anymore. But almost. Freaking Die Hard. I think it checked. I last checked it like 15-16%. So yeah, not many people like that. Okay, now that I've strayed a little bit, I saw that film had really high marks, and I said, well, it's Affleck. I mean, I liked his last film, The Town. He directed and starred in that, and he's done the same here. And then I saw it, and I thought, oh my god, I made the right choice in seeing this movie, and I'm going to go back and see it. And it was actually about a week or so later that I saw it again with a whole bunch of friends that time. And they, you know, even though they made every crack at a joke, at every F word uttered, at every time Alan Arkin was on screen, they couldn't keep but laughing. The same with me at the same time around, because I loved him in that movie. Was he worthy of the nomination? Or, you know, because when I did my original Oscar reactions video, which is not on YouTube, I've lost it, I said Arkin was a strange choice to me, and I thought he was not really an undeserved nomination, but definitely a nomination that I might have thrown in somebody else. And I really liked him in the movie, and his role was really in that Oscar flashy persona. But it wasn't his finest work. I can definitely say that. He definitely gets into the character, and he's great as the character. What was his name? Lester Siegel or something like that. I definitely think he was good in the movie. But personally, for a nomination, I maybe would have gone with Javier Bardem, or maybe even from the other day, Dwight Henry for Beast of the Southern Wild. Or, you know, I've mentioned Mark Ruffalo. I've mentioned for the Avengers. I've mentioned Josh Brolin, Men in Black 3. You could throw in, potentially, you could throw in Tom Hardy for The Dark Knight Rises. You could throw in about 100 other people. And then there'd still be some just from recent movies. Like, you could have thrown in maybe Joseph Gordon-Levitt for Lincoln, or for Dark Knight Rises, also Joseph Gordon-Levitt. You could have thrown in Bruce Willis for Looper. I saw Looper the other night. I thought Looper was pretty good. And his performance kind of... If the film had gotten way more Oscar buzz, and it was a less packed year, and Looper would have gotten like a Best Picture nom, original screenplay nom, maybe even a Best Actor and Actress nom, because there was some fine acting in the film. Bruce Willis could have been up there for a nomination potentially. It'd be his first, but nah, it didn't happen. And it was that role, and the way he played it, I really liked him in that. And that was not a whole lot of people were vying for that one, but okay. So yeah, Argo. Okay, first of all, the story. It's about the 1979 Iranian hostage situation over there at the U.S. Embassy, except, and this is a true, now declassified for about 10 years now or so, closer to 15, story of 6 workers who got out of there before the Iranians took hold of it, and found their way, you know, to all these embassies or whatever, or you know, all these houses, and like they went to the British one, they turned them away. I think they said, what was it, the Kiwi or something, or Kiwan or something. I can't remember what it is. But eventually they end up at the Canadian ambassador's house, and he takes them in, and they get to the Canadian embassy, and they take him to the Canadian ambassador's house. played by Victor Garber, who I thought did really good in this. The whole cast as a whole just did really, really good here. And so they, of course, if you know the story about that, it's not the full whatever it was like 400 some days. No, instead it's only about 7 weeks later, the White House decides, okay, we've got to get these 6 out of there, you know. And so they put Ben Affleck on the job, kind of. He suggests an idea. He's an exfil guy, which is kind of, you know, that's his job, is to get people out of tight situations. And his character's name is Tony Mendel. Oh, crap. Tony Mendez, that's what it was. God, I just saw this a couple days ago and I can't remember. And I've seen it before, too, so I don't know. And then there's also Bryan Cranston, who plays, what was his name? Jack O'Donnell, I think. O'Donnell was his last name. And he's kind of his boss, his superior. And he says, okay, come up with an idea to get these people out of there. Because their first option is to, well, they have 2 other options. One is these 6 are like, what was it? They're agricultural developers, agricultural scientists, and then they're also teachers. But Mendez suggests against both those ideas for obvious reasons. Number 1, it's winter. And number 2, he said that the school that they would supposedly be teaching at, or being around, has been closed for a while. So, kind of out of ideas, he's talking to his son one night, and he says he's watching a movie. Turns it over, it's Battle for the Planet of the Apes. And I'm wondering, because Warner Brothers must have spent quite a bit of money getting the rights to Planet of the Apes, just the name, let alone showing part of the movie. One of their movies, and then what else? Crap, I can't remember what it was now. But they showed something else. It was owned by like Paramount or something. Star Trek stuff. That's it. And then they also showed Star Wars stuff. So they must have spent some money on that just to get, you know, you could see Mr. Spock's action figures and the Star Wars posters and the Star Wars references and stuff. It probably cost a little money, but yeah. And he gets this idea. Okay, there are 6 Canadian filmmakers, and they're making a science fiction rip-off of Star Wars, kind of. So he goes out to, you know, they accept it, he goes out to Hollywood, and he meets, oh, good Lord, I can't think today. John Goodman's character, John Chambers, who, of course, won an Oscar for his work on the original Planet of the Apes, and I didn't know this, worked for the CIA. And so he helps him, and they find Lester Siegel, who's a kind of big name producer, and the both of them work together with him to find a movie that'll work. And Tony finds a script called Argo, which is about kind of like the Star Wars story, except it's kind of set in a Middle Eastern vibe, kind of. And I love, first of all, I have to say, I flat out loved all the Hollywood jokes and stuff. Literally every line John Goodman had about that was knocking off Hollywood while he was working in Hollywood was hilarious and probably true. And that's what makes this, I said it was going to win Best Adapted Screenplay. This is the stuff, definitely. Not just the stuff in Iran later when Mendez gets over there, but all this stuff in Hollywood in, you know, about the first 45 minutes or so, not the whole first 45 minutes, but like the 20-minute mark to the 45-minute mark or whatever, there's a good, you know, almost half-hour stretch there when Mendez is in Hollywood. It's hilarious, and it's absolutely entertaining, and it sets us up for the serious stuff that's going to come later. In fact, one part of it is actually intercut with some very serious stuff going on over there. And that stuff, it's kind of freaky. I mean, I wouldn't say this is lighthearted entertainment at all. Despite the fact that you, just seconds ago, get the best joke of the year, Argo yourself. I love that joke. And it's kind of like a code word we've been using around, those of us who saw the movie, except we don't always use the full quote. We go, Argo, frick yourself, or whatever it is. But yeah, I love that line. That line is going to stick with me for quite a while. But yes, despite all that, just seconds ago we get that. One of the next scenes, they're reading through the script, and we see several hostages being taken, and then they're about to be shot at. You know, it looks like they're shot at, and then they get ordered, the Iranian gun people, the terrorists, or I shouldn't say terrorists, the instigators of this whole thing, whatever, are told to fire, and they fire on them, but their guns aren't loaded. And you see, yes, literally what I'm sure many of us would do. You see at least a couple of them just totally break down. You know, they've got a sack over their head. Their hands are tied. Yeah, it's some scary crap, definitely. And then when we get to as far as like spoiler alert goes, it's been out for a week or so on Blu-ray. So yeah, people have seen it. And of course, with all the buzz going around of it winning Best Picture, I'm sure a lot of you have seen it by now who want to see it. And if not, then don't worry. I won't reveal the very ending, but you pretty much can tell where it's going anyways. But yeah, so then Mendez gets over there, and you know, at first it seems like the six, you know, he thinks, oh, well, they'll all either they're all comply or they're gonna be saying no, this is too dangerous. And all of them except for one or two say no. We say yeah, we're into this. And the one guy definitely says no, let's, you know, this is a bad situation. You know, it's like a bad hand. It's like we're being dealt a bad hand in a poker game or something. And there's actually a few card game references here and there, I think, but none of them like pop culture ones, but just basic ones. Let's see, I'm trying to think. Otherwise, as far as the story goes, and then toward the end, they have their final thing. And of course, a lot of this is not actual factual stuff. A lot of it was kind of written in to make it more exciting. Despite all that, I still know the story is true. I still know that all six of them actually are still alive. And I actually recently saw on the DVD they had a bonus feature where they had a featurette with all the six house guests, what they were called. And actually Tony Mendez. And also it had Carter on there, by the way. But that's, you know, whatever, added bonus. And we see that these six people, they're actually really well portrayed by these actors. They've had to have at least had a conversation or two, these actors, with the real people. Because they embody really terrific performances, all of them very supporting, definitely. You barely see them really in the first hour. They're kind of floating characters, you know. You've got your Ben Affleck and your Bryan Cranston and the two Hollywood guys, main guys, and then you've got these guys, but they're kind of in the background for a while. And then in the second hour or so of the picture, then, of course, then Ben Affleck is in Iran, whatever you want to pronounce it as. And, yeah, there's all that good stuff. So, yes, totally recommend this movie. Nothing that came out this last year, 2012, which was a great year for film. I think literally almost every single film on my top 10 list, but one or two, got a 10 out of 10 rating. This, of course, being one of them. Boy, this movie is so entertaining. It's so funny. And it's so serious. Except there's one thing at the end, I gotta mention this, because it was the only thing when I was first watching this, that there was one point where I said, okay, now I know it's not true. Where at the very end of the film, or not the very end, but in the end of the film, they're all on the plane, and they're getting ready to take off, and then all of a sudden, like, these jeeps and stuff come up, and they're chasing them with guns. I'm like, okay, this is too Die Hard now. I said, yeah, the ending was too Die Hard for me. That point I was like, okay, come on. You really expect us to believe that happened? And then, yeah, but that was over about as quick as it started, so, okay. And I loved, yeah, the last lines from Alan Arkin, and kind of every character gets their last bit before the movie's over, and, yeah, I love to see all this stuff. And right away, I have to mention this too, because I was when I was kind of going over my notes on the film, or mental notes, of course, of what I said I had to mention in my reviews. The opening shot, the very first shot, the logo shot, is the old Warner Brothers thing. The old Warner Brothers logo that kind of comes toward you and then it stops and then it goes back, whatever. If you've seen an old version of like the Superman movies or an old Warner Brothers movie like, oh God, I don't know. I can't think of one either. You know that logo. And to see that, I said, oh, this is something special. I said, this is going to be something that I don't see every day. And there was kind of a big smile on my face right from that, kind of like when I saw The Hobbit and I heard the music and stuff. It was kind of that familiar thing where you're just like, okay, there's something happening here that I'm really going to be enjoying this film. And of course, the first shot after that, the very first shot of the film, an actual film, not just like the cardboard, or not cardboard, like, kind of like, they look like sketch notes, shooting notes, kind of. and they tell the story leading up to this and everything, which is really, really nice for anybody who, younger audiences who don't really know everything about the Iranian hostage crisis, because it was so long ago. And then the very first shot was an American flag being burnt, which is really, it's a risky move, and it paid off, definitely. It sets up the tone, because that opening scene is not really funny. It's totally serious. And then we move in, and then about 10-15 minutes after that, then it's then you get a couple kind of inside jokes or inside humor at the White House and everything, and the leading up to that, like there's a couple good lines in there, like about this guy's yelling for another man, and because and he's like, did you find him yet? No, I was yelling his name because I was getting screwed by him or something, or I was screwing him or something, except he doesn't say that. That's kind of funny. But and there's little stuff like that. But definitely the film turns more humorous toward the middle, and then there's still, and it's very, very tense after that. Like the hour point when Affleck steps foot in Iran, from that point on, the tension just builds and builds. There's one scene where they're in a van, and they're getting ready to go to the bazaar, the Grand Bazaar or whatever, and in Iran, and they're, the van, it's being pounded on by all these protesting Iranians, and you're just like, oh my God, what are they going to do? Are they just going to pound on the thing, or are they going to try to bust in and take them, or what? And it's kind of thrilling. It's kind of heart-racing. And then they get to the bazaar, and then every second you look around and you see actually somebody taking pictures and stuff, and you're just like, oh my God, what if, what happens, when one of them slips up, and naturally one of them does, and it draws notice, and boy, that scene, oh my God, in the theater, I was just about ready to just close my eyes and just say, okay, tell me when it's over. I was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Because I did not know the things about this declassified story at all. I knew about, of course, the Iranian hostage thing, and before this, I did not know there were 6 other than the 60 that got out, that were stuck in there. That 6 got out. I had no idea about that. And then this film told the story. So yes. And one other thing I have to mention: the whole supporting cast, those 3 main supporting characters that never are in Iran, John Goodman, Alan Arkin, and Bryan Cranston. All 3 of them could have been nominated for this film, not just Alan Arkin. Because boy, Cranston does a fantastic job, especially in that last half hour when things, when they're getting ready to get to the airport and things have been canceled. The whole operation's been kaput. So now, at the last second, Mendes says, we're responsible for these people, I'm getting them out. And then Cranston has to say, crap, well now I gotta switch all this, and I gotta do this because they're going to the airport, they're going there now. And they're not going to have their tickets, and the agency can't claim them, so they're going to be claimed as Americans, and they're going to be killed. So he says, "Crap," and then, well, he says more than that, but yeah, he's definitely very tense in that last half hour, and that whole last half hour also at the airport when when the guard stops them and everything. That the Iranian guard, that's some thrilling stuff too, and then it's all relieved, and then you get that stuff at the very end, which I mentioned earlier. Which for me, I was just like, the tension kind of stopped, got, came to a halt there with all that, but okay. And then, yeah, I think John Goodman, I've mentioned this in a couple other videos, I think. John Goodman does just as good a job as Arkin, just as powerful and nice and funny a performance. He doesn't get crap. He's got maybe 1 or 2 smaller nominations for smaller town or city, I shouldn't say town, city critics festivals or whatever. I don't know, like a San Diego one, or I don't know if he was that particular one, but a couple of those he got nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I was like, oh, more for John Goodman, and he got actually he was in a movie called Flight, which I saw just recently. He was good in that too, but he kind of had some smaller stuff. Yeah, that kind of slightly similar comedic role, but a little less helpful in the plot, at least until later on. But yes, definitely Argo. I can't say enough words to bring justice to this film. It's so great, and I mean that in a good way. Don't worry, I can say the same for Superman 4, in the opposite way of thinking, of course. But yes, I can't recommend Argo highly enough. 10 out of 10, fantastic film, going to win the Oscar for Best Picture, probably going to win for editing and also for adapted screenplay, and it's definitely going to be a spot in my mind as one of the best films that's come out in the last few years, and it's definitely a film that I recommend to every single person. There's no nudity in this film, there's no really sexual content, there's only a little bit of violence and some language in there, so anybody, say 12, 13 on up, watch this film, own this film, buy this film. This is a film that I hope doesn't get forgotten as quickly as other great films in the past, like The Social Network. That's not really a lost film, though. It's not. That's people still remember it. I still watch it. Don't worry, David Fincher. I'm still with you there. I don't know. The first film that comes to mind, to my mind, is Pleasantville. It's a film that 10 years ago you couldn't not find it on television every other weekend, and now nobody airs it anymore, and it's barely on DVDs. It is. It's kind of, I think it's kind of a rare DVD, or nobody's bought it. But I recommend that film too. By the way, I love that film as well. But yeah, Argo is definitely a film I say go see. Don't forget it. Buy it. Watch it over and over again. Ben Affleck, I thank you. You've had a great track record. This is your third directing debut. Or third directing. Oh my God! This is their third film you've directed. Not in no way a debut. It's a debut for your big break-in, I should say. This is the film that you're going to get a lot of jobs for. You're going to get a lot of money for this film. You already have, and you can almost pick whatever you want to do next. The sky's the limit. If you win this for Best Picture and you pick up your Oscar for producing the film, there's no way that you could be restricted from anything. Whatever your next project is, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I looked at The Town. I've not seen Gone Baby Gone, but I've heard that's actually a good film too. I definitely say Argo is a fantastic film, and I have no quips about it except for that Die Hard-like ending. But nobody's perfect.